gorgeous piece of walnut. Love turning walnut. And the bark is secure. Well, I thought it was. One thing about doing voiceovers, you get to see the future. And the story is about how this piece of wood was going to be turned out to be a live edge. Well, that was the main goal anyway. Now stay with me on this one. Getting put onto the lathe between centres first off, just to get the foot created. Now being very, very careful not to disrupt the bark, because I want it intact. I want this live edge to look with the bark around the edge. So getting closer to getting that foot formed, and then this happened. So that was the end of the bark. As you can see, it was pretty well wet underneath, and it was the first catch of the gouge to produce this. So I'm going to press on with this project, because at the end of the day I think it came out looking reasonable, at least. Marking up for a 3-inch chuck should hold this piece on the lathe with a tailstock pressed up against it for most of the turn. Wood does have a high moisture content, but the shavings are coming off quite easy and nice and long. Removing the last of this bark so we can get the live edge looking stable. Now most of this wood is majority sapwood, and there is a core of hardwood there. But the actual hardwood centre has been bored through to the centre. I'd say there's some sort of an insect that's travelled through this piece. I've got other pieces similar to this that was given to me by a mate, so I think there's probably a bit of insect infestation. But you know, when I was turning this piece, I thought that hole should really stay where it is. I could have filled it up with epoxy or a myriad of other wood fillers, but I thought, no, just leave it there. It's a bit of a characterful feature. Been using the 1/2-inch Ellsworth grind bowl gouge. It's a joy to use, particularly when you've got a nice bit of wood like this. It's not, as I said, it's not completely dry. It is wet, possibly around the 15%. I didn't use the gauges, I'm just guessing here, but yeah, it's a really nice feeling to see those shavings coming off in very long pieces and leaving behind a trail of a very, very smooth finish. Requires very little sanding when you've got a nice, sharp, efficient bowl gouge, and the wood, of course, complements. And I was aiming for around about a 3-inch thick wall, and hollowing out by leaving most of the material in the centre of the bowl, which in turn supports the walls and stops or minimises the vibration as you're turning down the edges. I do use a final finishing scraper on the surface, both on the inside and the outside, and that gives it minimal sanding that's required. I go through to around about 320, 400 grit before putting any finishings on this plain bowl. Staying well away from the epoxy this time, just going for the traditional finishes. Normally I start at around 120 grit, going through the 180, 220 up to 400 grit as a smooth finish. Then using a sanding sealer, let that dry for maybe 2 or 3 hours, and then I use the Acks paste to polish that sealer to a degree where then there's the Acks polish that I use as a prior finishing for the friction polish, which is the mylar friction polish. So there's several coats there going onto the bowl, and it should hold that moisture into a degree. Of course, there will be some drying processes that take place, and some overloadation of the bowl over time. Turn the piece around on the lathe now with the vacuum chuck and the tailstock pushed up as hard as possible on the foot of the piece, just to take off that foot and to make a hollowing indent so that the bowl has got a nice round and reasonably flat base. I think this bowl turned out pretty good, to be quite honest, if I say so myself. Pictures at the end. Cheers, guys.